Modern cars are supposed to last for at least 150,000 miles, but we all know that's not always the case. Some cars might make it that far, but they were pretty rubbish along the way to getting there. Well, in this video, I'm going to talk to you about 5 used cars that you can buy for under £5,000 that are supposed to be insanely reliable. How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. Some of the cars on this list have literally proven themselves to go over 1 million miles, which is just unbelievable. But don't forget, just because they can, doesn't mean they always will. Maintenance, repairs, insurance, road tax, all that kind of stuff is important to remember whenever you buy any second-hand car. And don't forget, I'm in the UK, so prices in your country may differ. If you like videos on this topic, on reliable cars, then do hit the like button. 1,000 likes will do the same video again at under £2,000. Is that doable? Comment down below to let me know the most reliable car you've ever owned. I think mine is probably my Mazda. It's pretty good. But without further ado, let's get into the video. Toyota are renowned for their reliability, even being named the second most reliable brand based on the ratio of cars that fail versus cars that don't. For that reason, of course, I couldn't make a video about reliability without including one. The Toyota Corolla T-Sport is the car that I've chosen, specifically because of its 2ZZ GE engine, which has garnered itself its own cult following for a number of reasons. That engine is a 1.8 litre inline-4 that puts out 189 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 8.1 seconds in the Corolla T-Sport at least. It isn't the most reliable Toyota engine ever by any stretch of the imagination, especially considering the Toyota T-Series engine that ran from 1970 to 1985, which is often credited as being the key driver behind the Toyota brand's success. But in standard form, that 2ZZ, which was actually designed by Yamaha, who used Toyota's ZZ block as the basis, comes with forged rods for extra longevity, and the cars are electronically rev limited to keep the oil pump safe. That oil pump was the most common problem on early iterations of this engine, but it was still a pretty rare problem and was normally the fault of owners not following the correct oil change schedule. There was also a problem with early engines having failing lift bolts, which didn't cause any issue other than dropping engine performance, but again this was solved in later engines. So if you're able to go for a later 2ZZ GE engine and you're willing to follow the right oil change schedule to keep the engine and timing chain safe, you have a block which will just keep on going and produces a bunch of power considering its weight. This reliability mixed with low weight is one of the reasons why Lotus took these as a replacement for the Rover K series in the Elise and Exceed, which changed the reliability of the brand overnight. And those Lotus engines are the same ones you'll find in the Corolla T-Sport, which is a nice little car and a step up from the Yaris T-Sport I've included in many previous videos. Of course, the Corolla name tag is the most sold passenger car in the world, which helps in terms of getting parts for the car, and the T-Sport came in with more aggressive stylings and a bunch of parts to keep it stiffer for better handling. I personally really like the alloys that come as standard on these too. These start at around £2,800, and for 5k you'll get a 2005 model with around 90,000 miles on it, making it the lowest mileage car on this list. BMW is a brand that isn't normally associated with reliability, but there are some people out there that name the M57 diesel engine in certain iterations one of the most reliable diesel blocks ever made. In this video I'll specifically talk about its use in the E90 325D in any body type. You'll probably already know that it comes in estate, saloon, coupe and convertible, but it's worth noting that wherever you go for, the majority that actually got the M57 engine were pre-facelift. Some post-facelifts did get the M57 still, but it's much rarer, so maybe focus on getting one from before 2010. That'll mean you get a 3 litre turbo diesel inline 6 that makes 194 brake horsepower, which gets the car to 60 in 7.1 seconds, so by no means rapid, but that's not the point of this video. Plus, if you wanted more performance, a simple stage 1 remap will get you 72 brake horsepower more and 88 pound-feet of torque more as well. This engine has also been used in the E46 and E39, hence there are forums on forums of owners that have put hundreds of thousands of miles on these. The highest I could specifically find was an E46 330D with the same engine, which had done nearly 500,000 miles and sold on eBay in 2021, but other M57 engine owners have managed well over 200,000 to 300,000 miles with relative ease. A key benefit of these engines is that timing chains have proven to be strong without any common problems. Considering you can get these starting at around £2,500, with 5 grand getting you a 2008 model with around 120,000 miles on it, that would mean that with maintenance you've got at least 80,000 more miles to put into one of these to catch up with other owners. Let's talk about the actual car though. The E90 series is one of my personal favourite 3 Series generations, particularly in coupe and convertible spec, as this was the final generation that had these as 3s before splitting them out into 4s for the following F series. But given the announcements around there being a new M3 estate, as a huge estate fan I would probably consider getting into an estate if I was buying one of these diesels, as I feel like the coupe and convertible would be what I'd go for in M3 or 335i spec. Lexus is Toyota's luxury brand, which means the cars benefit from Toyota's exceptional reliability reputation. The LS400 and LS430 in particular are very special cars when it comes to longevity in my opinion, particularly because you might have seen Matt Farah's LS400 hit over 1 million miles. The engine in the LS400 uses a 1UZ, and the LS430 had a later generation of that block, the 3UZ. Both are V8s, but let's focus on the 4.3 litre V8 engine in the LS430, which makes 278 brake horsepower, taking it from 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds. The collection of Toyota UZ engines are known to be very reliable, putting out less power than they probably could, and built with heavy duty materials where relevant to ensure they feel as smooth as possible for drivers and passengers. This is because they were built to be used in luxury cars, so it was less about making something that maximizes performance and remains lightweight, and instead the focus was on making a long-lasting and comfortable V8 engine. The LS400 is a properly cool car in my opinion, being a cheaper luxury car than its European competitors when it was new back in 1994. For its time, it was a really great offering in terms of luxury, with great soundproofing for the mid-90s, dual zone climate control, special patented suspension and seats for extra comfort, and an in-dashboard CD changer, and even GPS, which was not normal at the time. The LS430 similarly is a beaut of a luxury car, and was the generation that followed the LS400. I've mentioned before that the interior was modelled after the Four Seasons hotel bedrooms, with the seats being based on first-class British Airways plane seats. It even had a rare fridge option that would sit between the rear seats and was more or cooler than an actual fridge, but pretty cool and luxurious nonetheless. The LS430 starts at around £2,500, with £5,000 getting one with 100,000 miles on the clock, and the LS400 is also available for well under 5k with similar mileage, meaning you've got hundreds of thousands of miles to go. Of the two, I personally would have the LS430 as I love how understated yet old school luxurious it is, but either way, whichever you go for, you're buying into a reliable luxury car with a bit of a cult following behind it. I hope you guys are enjoying this video. As a reminder, if you haven't already, do hit the like button if you want to see more videos just like this one. I will literally do another reliable cars video if this hits 1,000 likes. And if you haven't already, do jump over to my Instagram and follow me at CarsWithJB, where I post all of my updates and a whole bunch of stuff about cars over there too. So if you want more content, then jump over there. Theoretically, the most reliable car manufacturer in the world is Honda, with just one in almost every 400 cars actually having a catastrophic problem. The Civic Type R EP3, which I've spoken about in many previous videos, particularly recently, is a car that is fast, fun, and actually very reliable if you buy the right car. That's because of its K20 engine, which is certainly not bulletproof, but it is still very, very solid. Let's start with the three main problems it has: front crankshaft seal oil leaks, exhaust camshaft lobe galling, and engine mounts failing, causing the engine to vibrate. The first problem is very cheap and easy to solve, and normally costs less than 30 quid if you can do it yourself. The second is much more difficult and is therefore more expensive to solve, however it is possible to prevent happening by just using the correct oil and keeping on top of oil changes. And the final one you'll probably also want to get a mechanic to solve, but the parts are pretty cheap and it shouldn't take too much time. You have to be careful when talking about K-series engines though, as of course that could refer to the Rover K-series as opposed to the Honda K-series. The Rovers were known to have head gasket failure, whereas the Honda K-series are generally considered to be reliable at least up to 200,000 miles and beyond, with some owners on forums noting having done well over 250,000 miles even with modifications. And modifications are a key driving force behind the love for these cars, in part because of its reliability. A bog standard K20 engine can usually get up to around 400 brake horsepower, more than double what it starts with, before you need to start looking at actually forging and strengthening any of the internals, although some people know you shouldn't really push too far over 340 brake horsepower. Either way, that's insane for a 2-litre inline-4 engine that puts out 197 brake horsepower standard, which takes the Civic to 60 in 6.4 seconds. The Civic Type R also benefits from just being a super fun car to own and drive with a huge cult following, but I'll let you find out more about it by watching the video I dropped last week on the ideal fun 3-car garage you can get for under 10 grand. These start at around £3,200, and for £5,000 you'll be looking at a 2005 example with pretty high mileage, somewhere in the low to mid 100k range. This has to be one of the most commonly featured cars on the channel, so much so that I might even just buy one in the future and tell you what it's like to own and drive. The Lexus GS450h is an absolute machine and has one of the most reliable powertrains out there, particularly considering it's pretty old for a hybrid at this point. It comes with a 3.5 litre V6 engine and a hybrid electric motor, which puts out a combined 341 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 5.7 seconds, making it also the quickest car on this list, despite being a pretty unassuming large luxury cruiser. That engine is the 2GR FSE, which is just a letter away from the 3.5 litre V6 that was used in the Lotus Exige, Evora, and even the new Emira, which used the 2GR FE. Now again, this car isn't bulletproof, but its main problems come from that electric motor and battery, which which can cost a fair bit to replace, but that really is the main source of any issues for this car. The engine block was built using a process named vacuum casting, which essentially sucks aluminium into templates to fill the space, meaning no or fewer imperfections. So the engine block is solid, proven even further by Lexus deciding to use the car with that engine only slightly modified for a 24-hour endurance race in Japan, where it was the first hybrid to ever take part. It finished 4th in its class, even though it had a huge weight disadvantage when compared with its competitors. The car was also the first ever mass production rear-wheel drive luxury hybrid car. On the Lexus Owners Club forums, I found people who've clocked up well over 200,000 miles on these, though in most cases, high mileage heroes had to have battery replacements at some point during their lives. On the actual car though, I rate it as a highly comfortable car that pretty much has sleeper status, given its sub 6 seconds to 60 time and unassuming exterior. It was in fact the first car to ever get Lexus's new L Finesse stylings, which essentially means curvy and muscular. You'll find this is starting at around £4,500 and you're looking at just over 100,000 miles on the clock for £5,000. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit the like button, I would really appreciate it, and subscribe as well if you're new here. Mass thanks to the patrons as always for their support, and to you guys as well for watching. I will see you in the next one.